can you output like individual? Can you output?
Things to be 3D printed. This money is purely off of.
All the time that you're doing like you brought us like clean like
Welcome to Startup Week in Transmedia. I'm so excited. I just gotta tell you, we've been working on this forever, so we're really excited. Are you guys excited? Okay, so welcome. Thanks to all of you for being here. It's really great. Tonight we're gonna do a big presentation. We're gonna do pitches, like a bunch of stuff that's gonna happen. But first, I wanted to welcome on this little stage here our keynote speaker, Corey Ford from Matter. Thanks for being here, Corey.
Thank you. Excited to be here. I think I'm going to try it without the microphone. If you can't hear me, just raise your hand. Okay. Welcome to Startup Weekend. How's everybody doing? You excited? Yeah. gonna build a company and then watch the 49ers win the Super Bowl after that, right? I love it. Great. So I'm really excited to be here because as you probably believe, you know, stories define us. Stories are the way that we translate complex information into simple ways of spreading our culture, information, etc. And we've been doing that since we've been, you know, talking around the campfire, to making movies, to talking on Twitter, right? Stories define us. And technology empowers us, right? It empowers us to tell stories in new ways, to connect, and to do things like what happened in Egypt 2 years ago. But technology, it also disrupts, right? Technology is something that actually challenges the media institutions that tell the stories that we rely upon. And it's entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs are the ones who are leveraging technology and storytelling and showing us how we're going to tell stories in the future. And that's why I'm excited to be here at Startup Weekend Transmedia, which is all focused on combining startups and the future of storytelling. Because what's really important, especially here at Startup Weekend, where you're going to start a company in 2 days, we tend to forget that everything big started small. Everything big started small. What you're looking at there is the first prototype of what would become Twitter. Jack Dorsey's sketch of that, while his team was building a company that was trying to disrupt podcasting. Everything big starts small, just like you're starting here in Startup Weekend. And I want to challenge everybody here to think about, what if you tried to build the next great media institution from scratch by taking a little step today with a startup that looks small but might actually become something that had the power of something like the New York Times or like Twitter has today? And what if you combined the values of storytelling institutions such as public media and journalism, but you combine that with the methods and mindsets of entrepreneurship? What if you were able to do that in a way where your mission was to educate, inform, inspire, connect, or empower? What stories really do, right? But the approach that you took was leveraging the best practices of entrepreneurship and design, doing it in a way that's human-centered, prototype-driven. You believed in radical collaboration, working on multidisciplinary teams, pursued scalable business models, and leveraged emerging technologies. I believe, and I think you should believe, that tomorrow's meaningful media institutions are being built today by entrepreneurs like you, who are starting small but thinking big. That's what Matter is all about. Matter is the early stage venture capital firm and accelerator that I run, that is backed by KQED and the Knight Foundation. And our mission is to support and invest in media entrepreneurs building ventures that make society more informed, more engaged, and more empowered, and are pursuing scalable for-profit entrepreneurship to do it. So that's why I'm really excited to see what you all come up with here, because you could actually be potential applicants to our program. We can help you along the way. A little bit about my story. I have had one of those careers that only makes sense looking backwards and connecting the dots. I actually started my career on a traditional path of journalism and storytelling as a documentary film producer for a show called Frontline. Made 17 films for Frontline, before realizing that the world was changing dramatically and we weren't changing at all. And I cared about the stories that we were telling to the world, but I was worried about the future of the institutions that I was in. And that got me to actually take the leap, come out to Silicon Valley, because I wanted to learn more about entrepreneurship, innovation, and the culture surrounding that. So I landed at Stanford Business School, a documentary filmmaker surrounded by consultants and bankers, trying to learn as much as I could about how Silicon Valley ticks. And I believe I got a world-class entrepreneurship education, but it was from point B to Z. B to Z. You already have a robust market-validated idea and team, and here's how you execute on it. But it was really missing the creative side. I want to start a company. How do I take the first step? Fortunately, at the time, this little place was getting off the ground at Stanford called the D School, the Stanford Institute of Design, which is all about something called design thinking, user-centered, prototype-driven process to tackle real-world problems. And I said, this is the A to B of entrepreneurship. How can we take design thinking and apply it to entrepreneurship? And that started me on a journey where I was focused on that and tried to apply it to media anywhere that I could. From there, got an opportunity to build an accelerator for Eric Schmidt of Google for his early stage venture capital firm Innovation Endeavors. And then last year, got an opportunity to put everything together to build an accelerator all about supporting media entrepreneurs, building the future of media that matters. And I tell you that so that you can see where my thinking has evolved in terms of how do you combine design thinking, early stage entrepreneurship for media. And the thing that I think about a lot, I think about my mentors at Frontline. This is a 30-year-old David Fanning in 1982, right before the first broadcast of Frontline on public television. And for those of you who don't know Frontline, it is like the last bastion of long-form documentary journalism in the United States. And we think of it as an institution. But right here, right when this photo was taken, it never existed, right? Everything big started small. David Fanning at that time, he had a crazy idea. He prototyped it, he tried it. The first Frontline was actually a massive failure. It was editorially poor. It was like this really rough prototype, but we forget that. Anybody know who that is right there? It's not Bill Gates. That's a young 19-year-old Ira Glass, an intern at NPR while he was working on creating future stories of forms of audio storytelling and really revolutionize audio storytelling. So everything big started small. It takes innovators like that trying. Now I think, media has evolved over time where now the types of entrepreneurs who are going to define the future of media, they look a little different. They're on multidisciplinary teams. It's not just about content. It's about the intersection of business, technology, and design. And they're doing things like Yancey Strickler here, the co-founder of Kickstarter. Right? Kickstarter was founded in 2009. 2009, not too long ago. Kickstarter now helps fund more projects, more creative projects than the National Endowment for the Arts does every year. Talk about the impact that entrepreneurs can have on the future of storytelling. And there's other entrepreneurs right around this neighborhood right now who are defining how we connect in our community and how we also tell stories. Dan Parham of Neighborland, Bert Herman of Storify, Akshay Kothari of Pulse. Bert and Akshay, they were students at the D School at Stanford. Didn't know exactly what they wanted to do, but they wanted to start a company. Bert was a frustrated AP reporter who, instead of wanting to complain about the future of journalism, decided he wanted to actually try to build something that would be a part of it. And that resulted in Storify. Akshay was in a class at the D School around design thinking and entrepreneurship, and word was that the iPad was coming out in a few months, and so he actually sat in a coffee shop and just started designing paper prototypes with people to figure out what would the new news reading experience look like. That launched Class Project at Stanford and became Pulse, which is on many people in here's iPads and iPhones today. So here's what I hope out of this weekend. You're next. You can leverage early stage entrepreneurship, what I would call design thinking, to define the future institutions, future tools of media. Everything big starts small. It starts with something like you're doing right here, right at this intersection. And I want to take a little moment tonight to talk about something that's at the heart of everything that I'm talking about, which is this whole thing called design thinking. What is this thing that I'm talking about? Why is it at the heart of what we're building at Matter, and why do I want to talk to you about it so that you can keep this top of mind when you're building your project and you're thinking about launching a company? So, what is design? I think design means a ton of things to a ton of different people. When I was a documentary filmmaker landing out here, I thought really design was all about aesthetics. It was like graphic design, right? But as a lot of people in this room know, it's kind of bigger than that. Design it's not, when I think about it, it's not an aesthetic. It's not an event. It's not an experience, although you can design amazing experiences. And design is not a product, and it's not just about products, but you can design amazing products. Really, at its core, design is a process. It's a way of coming up with something new or making something better in a way that is feasible, viable, and most importantly, desirable. It hits the intersection of business, technology, and design. That's where you want to aim. Now, there's a ton of different ways of visualizing the design process, and I don't claim one, but the way that I internalize it and I think about it is that design is, at its core, a series of flaring and focusing. Flaring and focusing, flaring and focusing, knowing how and when to generate ideas and explore, and knowing how and when to execute and select and execute. And doing that as many times as possible in the time that you have. Such as this, 48 hours of startup weekend?
52.
52 hours, thank you. So that's like 4 more flares and focus. Flaring and focusing, flaring and focusing, flaring and focusing, so that you can do what I like to call the drunken walk of the entrepreneur. So instead of coming up with a perfect plan, a perfect business plan that then you pitch and then you execute on, it's actually about taking little steps, learning, adjusting, taking little steps, learning, adjusting, making little bets along the way, so that you end up in a place that is much more feasible, much more viable, and much more desirable, thank you, than you ever could have landed in if you stayed in your office or at home and tried to come up with the perfect plan. It's all about getting out into the world and learning. And I hope this weekend you don't just stay here, but you get out into the world and you test and you learn. Design is also about mindsets. And one mindset that we talk about a lot is being mindful of process. Now, by process, I don't mean a bureaucratic process. Instead, it's really about, if you don't have a perfect plan to execute on, and you don't actually know exactly where you're going, right? This is ambiguous, this journey. Then what do you hold on to as a team? You hold on to process. You make sure you talk to users. You make sure you prototype. You make sure you learn and iterate. Some other mindsets to keep top of mind that we believed in deeply at the D School and I believe in deeply at Matter. Believe in radical collaboration, being human-centered, and being prototype driven. What does that mean? So radical collaboration. I think the D-School is a really good example of this. The magic of the place, quite frankly, is that it just dropped itself in the middle of Stanford, and it wasn't part of any department, and opens its doors to any graduate student at Stanford and said, come, mix, mingle, form multidisciplinary teams, and tackle real-world problems. And the key to that is that true innovation happens not by getting 4 of the same experts in the same room and trying to solve a problem, but by creating the intentional serendipity in an environment so that lateral connections are made across disciplines. Making lateral connections across disciplines. That's why having multidisciplinary teams are so important. So as you form teams today, I would really urge you to think, how can we actually get this team to be as diverse as possible? Being user-centered or human-centered. It's all about getting out into the world and getting empathy for the users that you're designing for. Try to get into their shoes as much as you can, and don't assume you know what their world is like. Test with them, iterate with them, etc. And to be prototype driven, simply think of everything as a prototype. Everything is your prototype, everything is imperfect. Your team is a prototype. Your business plan is a prototype. Your product is a prototype. You're always seeking to test, learn, and adjust. Heard about prototyping early and prototyping often. Fail early and fail often in order to succeed. Failure is the key to success in Silicon Valley. And like I said, prototyping is not just about products. You can take a prototyping mentality to anything. Here's a good example of how you can prototype your business plan, not with 6 months and making it perfect, but doing it in an hour or 2 so that you can tease out the key questions that you should test. So, design thinking, meeting early stage entrepreneurship, it works. I've seen it work myself. I've seen it work in social entrepreneurship. This is a team called Embrace Global. They were given the challenge of making an incubator that costs 1/100th of the cost. But instead of taking an engineering approach to that and going in and seeing how they could re-engineer something, they actually went to their users. They actually went to a place in Nepal, and they looked around and they said, you want us to make a cheaper incubator, but we're here in your hospital and we don't see any babies in the incubators. Huh. And they said, where are the babies? Well, they actually can't get there. They're out in the rural villages. So they got on a bus, got out there, and met actual users who couldn't actually take their babies into the hospitals. And that got them going down the line where they actually started designing for a rural parent, desperate parent in a rural village needed to give their dying baby a chance to survive. That's how they reframed their problem statement, and that's how they got out of incubators that look like a box and do 10 different things to something that looks like a sleeping bag, costs $15, and can function without electricity. I've seen it happen in the Runway program that I ran at Innovation Endeavors, where I helped teams form multidisciplinary teams and then dive in pre-idea to find and form a company. I won't go into details, but there's this company called Lumobac right now, who they had never met each other before they formed through the program that I ran. Somewhat similar to Startup Weekend, but like maybe 10 times the intensity even. They formed a team. We invested in them pre-idea. They dove into many spaces, explored the world, started putting together all these different insights, discovered that sensors are becoming ubiquitous. Obviously, everybody's using the more mobile phone for everything. There's this big problem. Lots of people have back pain. 80% of back pain caused by poor posture. There's one place on your back that if you could measure that, you would know whether you had the right posture. Started prototyping things that could measure your back. Built an iPhone app that had an avatar that could actually mimic your body movements. And they were off and running. They never planned it. They had to get out in the world, learn, and put things together. And they just raised $5 million in seed funding, having started from scratch. And finally, I told you the story of Akshay Kothari, who sat in coffee shops, just tried to iterate in coffee shops, and ended up creating Pulse. So it works in media too, using that process. So that's a story, a quick story of design thinking, and some mindsets that I would say that you should approach your project in. I want to leave you with some tips for this weekend that I give to my entrepreneurs a lot. So number one, think about who is our user. Not what is this cool thing that I want to make, but who is your user? Who is the one specific person that you're designing for? What context are they in? Are they sitting on the couch? Are they driving in their car? What's their name? Who are they? Have a customer in mind when you're designing. It'll help your team make decisions. And what's the need, obviously, that you're solving for them, and if you have any deeper insights about that. Number two, you are building a venture. You're not building just a product. Think of it as a venture, right? So we've all heard about building minimum viable products, right? But you can use this to kind of take a step back from just your idea and think about the entire world of the venture that you're dealing with. So, top-down trends. Where are you betting the world is going? If you want an investment for your idea, you're making a bet 2 years out that the world is going in a certain direction and that you're aiming there. Investors are looking for that. Also, drill down all the way to the bottom. Have a bottom-up point of view. Have a user, a specific user in a context that you're designing for. Build a minimum viable product that meets in the middle. Wrap it in a business plan. And what I've really learned from my switch from storytelling, from a journalist to venture capital, is stories matter. You have to wrap it all in a story. And finally, just a tip for something that I think can accelerate your venture very quickly, that I do with a lot of my entrepreneurs, and they usually come in and say, I have pushed my venture so further in the 8 hours you gave me on this project than I have in the last 4 months, is the following, if you want to do it. Taking that, you want to hit there, right? Between business, technology, and design. The viability, the feasibility, and desirability. Here's something that you can do. Take 8 hours. You don't have to do it this weekend, but you can do it whenever you want. Take 8 hours. Think about your business on these 3 lenses. Come up with your top hypothesis in each. Basically, what would kill your company if this was wrong, right? Because you've got to focus on the key risks and the key success factors in your startup. Then, in less than 8 hours, go out there and talk to at least one person who can help, who you can learn more about that, to test it and validate it. Listen to what they say. This is the key. Most people fail here. Listen to what they say. Learn. You don't want to sell them. You want to learn why you're wrong. Synthesize that, and then decide where you go next. How should your hypothesis change? Do that exercise in 8 hours, strictly. Tell somebody you're going to pitch it to them in 8 hours, and I guarantee you will accelerate your startup tremendously. So, for this weekend, enjoy your drunken walk. That's what it should feel like. If it's not, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And I really hope that your startup changes media for good. Thank you.
All right. I'm not as loud, so I'm going to use the mic. Who's been to a startup weekend before? All right. That's good. Excited to have you guys here. I'm really excited too. This is actually the first place I had my first startup weekend, and it's completely changed my life for better or worse. You guys are in for a whirlwind of a weekend, so welcome. I'm going to go through some little details. We're going to kind of try to make this as quick as we can to get going and start everything off with a bang. Just so you guys know, the Wi-Fi and the password are up here, as long as the hashtag that was up there earlier. The Wi-Fi is also back on that whiteboard. So take note of that, ask people around over the weekend, we'll let you know about it. Corey, once again, thanks a lot. Appreciate you talking. Okay, so Startup Weekend. For those of you guys that don't know about Startup Weekend, I want you guys to kind of take a moment and reflect on why you're here. You guys are in a room of about 80 to 100 people that are crazy enough to actually work over the weekend. Really smart people. You guys are going to learn a lot. Every time I do this, I learn a lot. So just think about, are you guys going to form a new company here? Are you looking for co-founders for something else? Are you guys trying to do a project over the weekend that's going to inspire you to become an entrepreneur and change your job later on during the week? Or you just want to hear and have fun? So think about that. There's a lot of opportunity and a lot of fun things you guys can learn here. It's going to be a pretty exciting weekend. So what Startup Weekend? Our goal is to democratize and spread entrepreneurship. And we're massive. I think we are in 110 countries right now. So you guys are not just this room. We have 6 events going on during this weekend. So we have Bergen, Ann Arbor, I think Austria's there, UC Irvine, Spain, and Milan. So think about these guys as, these are actually also hashtags you can use to use customer validation too, so we'll get that to you later. But think about that, you're not just part of this room, it's a gigantic network. So we just hit our 1,000th event, that means there's 100,000 entrepreneurs around the world that have been through this. So you guys are part of this vast network. If you find someone else, you are officially alumni, so you can connect with them. If you go into another city, South Africa, Europe, Asia, anywhere, you can find someone with Startup Weekend, so that's pretty fun. Organizers, look around the room, wave your hands. These are the guys that put on this weekend. I probably have over 100 emails from these guys, so they really put a lot of time and effort into this, so make sure to thank them, and if you guys have any questions, these are the ones to ask. And I think they're actually, it's a good representative of Startup Weekend because no one on the team is American, right?
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. Okay, so we have also, we'll talk about organizers, we have a lot of people at companies that have helped us put this on. Google, Kaufman, .co, Microsoft BizSpark, Amazon, SendGrid, and CloudMine are global sponsors. They help out with all of our events. You guys have some great resources to help you through the weekend, which you'll get in the toolbox. And then we also have some local sponsors, so I'm going to let Elise announce. So go ahead, Elise.
Yeah, thanks to our sponsors. They're not all here tonight, but they'll come throughout the weekend. First of all, thanks to our hosts, Perry Soma. Tiago, you want to say 1 word, 2 words about Perry Soma? Yeah.
I'll be very brief. I just wanted to welcome everyone. In case you're wondering where you are right now, Perisoma is a co-working space and event space. We're also an open incubator. We have 80 startups with 120 people. And our motto, our mission is we're a place where ideas meet execution, which is why, as you can imagine, we're extremely excited about this weekend. We've been working with Transmedia SF for many months on this, and I just want to wish you the best of luck for this weekend.
Thanks. Maya from Transmedia SF. Transmedia SF, the Startup Weekend Transmedia. Tell us about that.
Thank you, Elise. Well, I wanted to thank Elise, who's part of Transmedia SF, that brought this idea to us and actually helped us hatch it together with this amazing team. My name is Maya. I'm the co-founder of Transmedia SF. We're a local meetup made out of technologists, storytellers, filmmakers, designers, and we meet once a month to exchange ideas and to make San Francisco the hub of transmedia and the convergent culture. And we're really, really excited to have the first ever Startup Weekend Transmedia, so this is really exciting for us. Thank you.
You guys know the Bold Italic? You know they write fun articles about San Francisco? Yeah? Yeah? Woohoo! They're right here in this room, front row. They're going to participate to the event. Hopefully they'll build a team. Jessica also used to be my roommate, so it's awesome. Matt, do you want to say 2 words about the Bold Italic?
Sure. Hey guys, yeah, I mean, if you guys know us, we are an online magazine, events hub, lifestyle in San Francisco, and we're really, just like this event, we are really trying to tell the stories that happen in San Francisco, tell them from a local perspective, and get people out to experience the city. So hopefully you guys know us, and if you don't, by the end of the weekend, you will.
Okay, and also thanks to Singly, who unfortunately is not here tonight. They're here! I didn't meet you! Hello! Alright, thanks to Singly.
I just want to introduce Singly. I'm really excited to be here to help all you guys out. Hopefully Singly is fabric for connected apps, which means we've done all the hard work. If you want to integrate with social media, in your application like Facebook or 34 other services. Talk to me, I'm a developer, I can help you out with that. We think that social integration should be part of MVP, so hopefully you guys will do a really good job.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna drop the mic. All right, let's be quick about it. Startup Weekend Transmedia is the first edition worldwide of Startup Weekend that is dedicated to transmedia, so we're pretty proud of this. Do you guys know what transmedia is? Anyone? Yeah? Yeah, I know you guys know. Justin, Paul, yeah. All right, trans what? It all comes down to this guy. Anyone knows Don Draper? Yeah, you guys like Mad Men? All right, so question for you guys. What do you think Don Draper does between 2 episodes? Any ideas?
Secretary.
Probably, yeah? Yeah, maybe. We don't know, really. And the reason why we don't know is because there's only those 40 minutes in the week where you can see him, right? But the rest of the week, he does stuff, right? Like he goes to work, drinks, like hangs out with secretaries, obviously. But we can just see him through this 40-minute window in a week, right? Now imagine if you could also see Betty Draper, his wife, blogging about, being a housewife, which she actually does. Don't know if you saw her blog, but it's pretty cool. Imagine if you could read Roger Sterling's book about advertising, what his views are on advertising. Imagine if you could see Sally Draper tweeting when she goes to the first Beatles concert ever. All this has happened, right? So that's what Transmedia is all about. It's about extending a story beyond the traditional TV screen or movie screen or traditional book, right? And basically, it's about adding layers and layers and layers to go deeper and deeper and deeper into a story. So what you guys are going to work on this weekend is Transmedia. So how can you take your audience from one story to like other platforms to allow them to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the story? So this is like the formal definition: multi-platform storytelling to make story worlds immersive, interactive. And Jonathan, do you want to talk about what people are actually going to build this weekend?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ashia. Can you all hear me at the back? Great. Well, your challenge this weekend is to create a transmedia story or experience on the topic of the city. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, that's what you're going to find out over the next 54 hours. Every project has to enroll on a minimum of 3 platforms. And the reason I'm filming this right now is because you're actually currently on 2 platforms. I thought we'd move this along. You're all on the web, live streaming on Twitter. Hey, Corey. Hey, so if I can get a big wave and a hello world from everyone. Fantastic, thank you. Turn this off now. One of the platforms has to be a physical location. Like Corey was saying, we want to physically get you out of the room. We want to get you onto the street. We want you to engage with the city. Speaking of the city, they are a major partner with us, and they'll be up in a moment to give a bit of a talk to you. Finally, to help you with all this, we've put together what we're calling a Transmedia toolbox. We'll throw the URL up later. We partnered with collaborative note-taking startup Unishare to put together this platform, and a few of the tools in there actually come with special prizes, so if you use them, you'll be eligible for those prizes. Now, a quick note, use of these are not mandatory, but one of the scoring columns on Sunday will include how well you used the tools that are in there.
Yeah, Corey was talking about Storyfy. For instance, they're partnering with us. You're going to be able to use Storyfy, the Storyfy API if you want.
The Storyfy is in there. We've got 3D printing. We've got app builders. We've got fully rendered motion capture, zombies and monsters. So we've got the works for you, and we hope you enjoy using those.
And you're going to have a bunch of coaches who are going to be here to coach you during all the weekend. They come from Electronic Arts, Storyfy, a bunch of amazing platforms. Some of them are in the room, so be sure to meet them and mingle with them.
Absolutely. So my pleasure to introduce Shannon from the city of San Francisco. Shannon, where are you? Here you are. She's going to tell you all about the physical locations that are one of the platforms for this weekend.
Hi, thank you all for coming. So I'm going to keep it really brief because I want you guys to start working right away so that I can come on Sunday and hear all of your pitches. So I'm the mayor's deputy innovation officer. Good, no one rolled their eyes, because usually the reaction is rolling the eyes or asking if I can fix the printer. So just a little bit of background, Mayor Lee, when he was elected last year, he created the role of a chief innovation officer. We're the first city in the US to have this role. So Mayor Lee really stands behind innovation and entrepreneurs. I was appointed as the deputy, and I love to come to events like this. And in fact, when Elise came to me probably months ago and said that she wanted to organize a startup weekend around Transmedia, exactly, I was like, trans what? And what's that mean? But her answer, when she talked about platforms and kind of a narrative that scales across platforms, that really resonated with me, because one of the ways that we often talk about the city is as a platform. And a big part of our jobs in the city, and I'm here with some colleagues who are going to talk a little bit about some of the physical interfaces that we have available to you. A big part of our jobs is really looking at how can we catalyze or activate those platforms to enable you to do things with them. So this event is really timely and really speaks a lot to the work that we're doing in the city. One of the projects I think that is worth mentioning that I believe is part of your toolkit is our open data project. So in 2009, we were the first city to legislate open data. And what that means is, if you live in the city, you're taxpayers, and that means that you should be able to access public data freely. We used to sell this data, but in 2009, when we passed this legislation, we not only published it on a citywide API, but we also made it machine readable. So you can integrate this data into your apps. We have a citywide apps catalog similar to the Android Play Store that we now have about over 100 apps, all delivering government services and all built at zero direct cost to government. So it's really exciting imagining how entrepreneurs, startup weekends, hackathons can really make use of this data. And in addition to sort of increasing government transparency and enabling participation in government, the other cool part of this story is that some of those apps have become products and they've become companies. So now we've been able to demonstrate that by opening up an existing asset that the government had, we're driving economic growth and creating jobs. So we love entrepreneurs, and the mayor gave a State of the City address on Monday. I don't know if anyone saw it or heard it, but just this is the infographic that we put together to summarize the state of the city. Just one thing to point out is the unemployment rate. When the mayor took office, the unemployment rate for San Francisco was 9.6%. A year later, it dropped to 6.9, and right now it stands at 6.5. And a lot of that is because of people like you. So we really encourage you. We know that startups are really the engine of our city, and I really look forward to coming back on Sunday and seeing what you all put together. So think of us as a resource. Just to introduce my team quickly, we've got Peter, can I just say this? Peter, Paul, and Neil, isn't that cute? We've got Peter from the SFMTA, he's a project manager. We've got Paul Chazin from the planning department. He is an urban designer and runs the Parklets program. And we've got Neil, who it's a hard one. We've got Neil, who is an urban designer, also in the planning department, who is working on the Better Market Street project. So these are some really, really great things that we're doing in the city that, again, think of as a resource, and you will want to be a part of them. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Transmedia. Thank you, Perisoma, and Startup Weekend.
Again. No Perisoma folks around to help us.
Is that what's happening? Is it 8 o'clock? Pull it down.
What I have to say is that we saw every single one of you register in our emails, and it's cool to like see you and see your faces and meet you at last.
Can we get everyone with a white t-shirt just lining up here?
Yeah, San Francisco, not a lot of white people. Okay.
All right, as that comes down, I've been told to be really quick, so I have under 3 minutes to pitch you an idea. So I'm an urban designer with the City of San Francisco. I'm with the City Design Group. I'm the lead designer for the redesign of Market Street. And one of the toughest things that we do as urban designers is to take the goals and aspirations of a community and then transform them into 3D physical manifestations. And that process of going from goals and aspirations to something real is one of the hardest things we do. And there we go. And we draw sections, use 3D renderings. We even build some models. And as we perform this dance between the public and our ideas, we move between abstract ideas, inspirations from other spaces, some of which we're seeing here, and then the real world outside our door. But what's outside is very, very different than just the physical realm. And integrating the social dimension of space and how it changes over time, morning, day, night, weekday, weekend, ceremonial streets like San Francisco during a pray day, it's a very, very difficult thing. It's much, much more difficult than the physical side of what we do. And yet, we try to do all this storytelling, which the pitch that you'll be coming up with this weekend, using really, really simple methods, and that honestly are probably inadequate to the purpose. We tell some stories, we try to make some people laugh sometimes, try not to get yelled at, but once we get into the specific designs, then we get into much more firmer footing. We deal with the here and now with real space. And so once we land on the design, our relationships change. But the initial process of first defining the hopes and the goals, and then linking them to the real world, is the hardest thing we do. And it's this slice of our work where an approach like Transmedia would really be inspirational to us. We've dabbled in some other platforms, but we've never really sat down and thought about which platform would be best suited to convey a certain emotion or experience. We've made films on occasion, we have websites, we use online surveys, posters inside the buses, we even had the mayor out playing ping pong on Market Street for a while. But every time we do something like that, a film or a walking tour or something a little bit more crazy, we come back and we comment about how much more nuanced the experience is doing that than just something like me standing up here telling you a story. And the reason is that they're much more emotionally and physically tactile in their experience, and that images alone can never be. And so I'm heartened to hear that one of your platforms is the physical world, and because that's really the basis, that's what we're trying to achieve. It's the creation of something new. But for the most part, these other platforms lie outside of our comfort zone as urban designers. And we see them as too resource intensive, too new, we don't have the skills, the time, or the money. And while that's changing, and I hope we continue to challenge ourselves to ask ourselves what we could do more effectively to communicate with the public and to get their feedback, I hope that's something that I'm very excited about coming back tomorrow and on Sunday to hear how you will be doing or will be trying to do the very same things that we've tried to do on our day-to-day. So thank you very much, and I look forward to this weekend.
So, hi everybody, I'm Paul. I'm also an urban designer. I work with Neil at the planning department.
By the way, they're all going to be coaching this weekend. So pay attention.
I'm also going to be coaching. And I manage the Parklet program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Parklets and why that program was successful. It's kind of one example or case study, and then hopefully use some sort of nuggets of wisdom into you about how maybe working with the city and so forth. So we started the Parklet program with two founding principles. The first is that sort of an idea that 25% of the city, of the land area of San Francisco, is made up by public rights of way, that's streets and sidewalks. And despite years of progressive policies like the Better Streets policy and the Complete Streets policy and so on, we had little to show for it. So the question was, how can we broaden the dialogue around public space and streets and the public realm in San Francisco? The other thing that we did, I think, built into the program was sort of just this sort of idea that parklets are public, that there's this concept of the public good, and I think if you're playing with the city, if the city's going to play with you, there's got to be some element of the public good for the city to be interested in playing along. And so with parklets, it's that everyone is welcome, whether or not they support the local business that's sponsoring it, that you're still welcome to use it. You can sit there and they can't ask you to leave. And so in the 3 years since this program's inception, parklets were started here. This was the first parklets in the world were built in San Francisco. We've got about 40 parklets on the ground, over 225 people, I think now this figure is out of date, on the list asking to be notified when we open the application process. And cities around the world are copying this program. So why? Like, what is it about the parklet program that's being so successful? And this may be the most important slide, I guess, in this presentation, but part of what we did is we created sort of a very simple process. It's legible for people, it's accessible, and it's kind of a framework that people can sort of plug into. So we kind of create the framework, and then the city comes to us, or the applicants come to us, and the sort of outpouring of creativity comes out of it. And so we've created this scaffold that allows for a lot of creative expression. And you can see this like it's kind of reflecting the hopes and dreams of people in San Francisco and the businesses and organizations and designers that manifest these spaces. So the top one up there is a sneak peek of a parklet that's about to come online on Valencia Street from McSweeney's, or 826 Valencia, and Paxton Gate, which is going to be a pirate ship crashing into a desert island. And this bottom image over here, the other thing I think that's really neat about this program is it's allowed a whole new class of people to participate in the process of placemaking and building the city. As opposed to architects and developers and designers and so forth. You have people like this woman from a Pilates studio who put together this concept sketch, which is clearly not an official architectural rendering, but reflective of her excitement and enthusiasm about this space. Outside of that, I think in terms of the general public, part of the reason they've been so accepted is that parklets have become a real symbol. They act as a symbol. There's something profoundly symbolic about taking the space, which is a parking space, which is essentially a private space for you to store your car, and turn it into something public. And I think people intuitively understand that they're getting something of value in exchange for this parking space that they're giving them. There's been other benefits too that we hadn't necessarily even expected. They sort of can act as little catalysts for community interaction. As this example over here, for example, where a bunch of public high school kids built this parklet as a part of a design builds project as an after-school program. And one other thing about parklets, so you see one of these spaces, and it's kind of cool. Maybe it's a space that helps make a place, that helps make a neighborhood, and it's maybe a source of pride for the people that did it. But as you start kind of seeing them again and again through the city, you see a couple more, and it becomes a much greater system. The impact of these things collectively as a whole are something much bigger than the individual parts. They're really helping reframe the dialogue about space and how we use it in San Francisco. And if there's one sort of parting thing I would have you think about, which is not so much parklets, but just cities related to the theme, it's that, cities are living, breathing systems. We experience cities as kind of static. They're built out of hard materials, and they're solid, kind of permanent feeling things, but they're actually dynamic and alive. They're viscous. And so that's my presentation, and that's good. The best of luck with your.
Hi everyone, my name's Peter, and I want to talk big for a second, and then we'll come back to San Francisco. So cities, to me, I've been studying cities for about 15 years, and cities are amazing places. Cities are where everything happens in the human environment. And when we think about the fact that right now, for the first time ever in human history, half of the people on the planet live in cities now. 3.5 billion people out of 7 are in cities. In 2030, in 17 years, it's going to be 60%. So we're looking 5 out of 8 billion people. In 2050, we're going to be at 80%. So cities are where everything's going to happen in the world. And when you think about what is the benefit of being in a city, well, cities are where creativity occurs. It's where opportunity exists. It's where women tend to have more rights and more freedom than they do in the countryside. And it's also a place where much more than just creativity can occur. So, and I happen to work for the transportation department, and I tend to think of transportation as the nexus of all activity. Often I challenge people, can you think of anything that can happen without transportation? And I usually win that debate. So this is our new vision. What do we want San Francisco to be? A great city with excellent transportation choices. We have some strategic goals that are pretty innovative from a city standpoint. We want to create a safer transportation experience for everyone. We're one of the few cities that says transit, biking, and walking, and taxis should be #1. So we're saying the car has a lesser priority than these other modes, and we're working towards that. You can read some of the other ones probably faster than I can, but this is the direction that we're going as a city from a transportation standpoint. You want to talk about excitement, you want to talk about a city coming together for a single event. This is the opening of the municipal railway 100 years ago, plus 1 month. This is in December 1912. Everybody in the city wanted to see what a municipal railway looked like, and this is right out on Market Street, Market and 5th. And so this is an inspiring moment when transportation in the city really changed, and of course now is our challenge to take it to the next level. How are we going to become a world-class transportation city? So what are we doing now? What are we doing? Well, there's the Parklet example that Paul just told you about. We're looking at dedicated busways on Van Ness. One of my colleagues, Ellen in the back, is designing a lot of these green bike lanes like they have in Copenhagen and in Amsterdam. We're getting a new fleet of vehicles. You know, like our vehicles break down. You guys probably ride Muni, and I hear a lot of complaints about our service, but it's going to get better. I promise. If it doesn't, please email me and let me know. Families should be out. You know, we got electric charging stations for electric vehicles. There's so many places in the city where you can be inspired, and I'll be here from 4 to 6 tomorrow to attempt to coach you guys. But good luck and do some good work. I have one more slide, but I didn't have time for it. So. All right, on to the fun stuff. Everyone stand up. Let's get a little loose.